Tonight on CTV, we take a look at the final verdict on the Donthe Lucas trial and the latest on the winter storm that is coming up tomorrow.
Then we'll take a look at the latest on ASCSU, including the upcoming elections.
That and more right now on CTV Channel 11. Good evening, Rams. I'm Weston Hubbard.
And I'm Kenneth Frederick.
Starting with our top story tonight, the case that has rocked the state of Colorado the last few weeks has finally reached its climactic verdict as of Monday, March 10th. The jury of the Donthe Lucas case came to a verdict on Monday evening: guilty. After weeks of the case, Lucas was then sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But after all this, you may be asking what led to the trial of this conclusion and what evidence was provided that allowed the jury to conclude guilty. The evidence provided all throughout the case helped the prosecutors a ton, such as what could have been called circumstantial evidence, text and surveillance videos, and as just as important, witness testimonies, which for some reason the defense seemed to be lacking of. The defense did have one thing in its favor: no body was ever found. Interestingly enough though, however, despite the lack of a body being found, that normally would not hold back a case like this. According to AETV, 86% of trials with a no body end up being convicted, as opposed to a normal 70% conviction rate with cases of bodies. Why is this? Because if they chose to go on with no body, they would have to make sure their evidence was so specific that there was no way around it being the truth. All that evidence plus a strong defense team was enough to convince the jury that Lucas was guilty. And finally, Schelling's family was able to feel a little bit of rest and victory after their 8-year battle to bring justice to their daughter. Although the case does feel like justice was brought to it, Schelling's family is still offering a $100,000 reward to any information that helps lead to the discovery of her body. But maybe the family will rest a little easier knowing that the person they hold responsible is finally behind bars.
There was worry at last night's ASCSU election meeting that the elections manager wouldn't have the budget to pay the LSC for the space to hold debates in less than 2 weeks. It all started with another lack of communication between the Senate and executive. The elections manager was missing a little under $2,000 to pay the LSC for the debates, as well as other projects the election manager wanted to do. The bill had originally wanted to pull money from the marketing department, but the executive and judicial branches argued that the money should come from general funds because the executive had several new marketing projects that they wanted to use the budget for. Senator Miles Robinson said that the problem was a lack of understanding about how the current administration wanted the process to go.
I didn't know that that's what the process is in terms of acting directors of the in the executive branch, and I want to name that, and I'm sure others felt the same way about that. And let's use this opportunity to be better in the future and to follow that process.
In the end, the Senate used most of their small discretionary fund to pay for the debates and the budget until Executive and the Budgetary Affairs Committee can come together and decide on a more permanent funding option.
Definitely interesting because we covered a little bit of ASCSU last semester as well, and it's interesting to see all these candidates and all the problems that are arising, and it'll make for an interesting semester.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to seeing what this new election has in store.
Most definitely. 2020 was a crazy year for many reasons, one being the political scene. With everything that happened with national politics, it can be nice now to focus back on what's happening in your own community, like the 2021 mayor race that's right around the corner. Thanks to the Coloradan, we got the opportunity to meet some of the new candidates. Jenny Arndt, a Democratic state legislator who was also named one of the legislators of the year by multiple sources, is in the running. Jerry Horak is also running, and he has been serving the Fort Collins City Council over the past few decades for a collective 20 years and intends to do some more. And last but certainly not least was Molly Skold, a CSU graduate who spent some time traveling the world, but returned to FOCO with dreams of helping and is, quote, a fresh face, unquote, for the race of these candidates. They were all highlighted on the Coloradan, but feel free to do some more research if you wish so you can best feel educated on your local politics.
We may be looking at the biggest snowstorm in over a decade, according to meteorologists like Fox 31's Denver Matt Makins. With that will come some pretty hazardous driving conditions. The Colorado Department of Transportation is asking drivers to stay off the road due to hazardous conditions that will come with the snow. Fort Collins will be deploying 2 snow crews to clear the streets in 12-hour shifts to keep the roads clear. Statewide, plows will be focusing on major interstates like I-25 and I-70 until the worst of the storm has come and gone. With a limited amount of snow plows available, many smaller streets won't be plowed and may be unsafe for drivers. CDOT asked drivers to use caution and avoid driving until the storm is over.
Thanks for covering all that, Kenny. Stick around, Rams, because we actually have some local weather up next with Morgan Gardner, who's going to tell you all about this storm that is coming up and what you need to do to be prepared.
That's here on CTV.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes, and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
Good evening, Rams. My name is Morgan Gardner, here to deliver all the weather for you tonight. As you can see right now, our current conditions, we're sitting at 38 degrees. A little bit of rain and snow out, but not too crazy just yet. We're sitting at a little bit of wind, 8 miles an hour north, and we're in a winter storm watch warning, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And for overnight lows, you can see that it's going to be pretty cold across the region here. In Fort Collins, you can see that we're going to be sitting at 26 overnight, Denver 30, Colorado Springs 27, and Pueblo at 30 degrees. And going over to the eastern side, you can see that in Burlington, it's going to be about 30 degrees, Lyman 27, Lamar 33. And over on the western side, you can see that in Grand Junction, it's going to be 31 degrees, definitely getting a little bit of that warmer weather overnight. And Telluride, Gunnison in the lower 20s. And going into tomorrow's highs, it's going to be pretty chilly across the region, but a little weird because we're having a winter storm this weekend. So as you can see along I-25, we're sitting at, again, Fort Collins at 39, Denver 42, Colorado Springs 44, and Pueblo at 57. And over on the west, you can see again that Grand Junction's getting a little bit of that warmer weather tomorrow at 52 degrees. And across the way at Lamar, we're seeing 56 degrees as well. And going into tomorrow's forecast, we're going to be seeing a little bit of showers, and we're going to be sitting at 39 degrees with a low of 29, sunset at 6:04, and a little bit of snowfall, 3 to 5 inches, nothing too crazy there. And as we can see here, the 5-day forecast, we're going to be seeing snow showers across the weekend, getting a little warmer on Monday and Tuesday, but this weekend's definitely going to be a cold one, sitting at, again, 39 degrees tomorrow, 29 degrees of a low. Saturday and Sunday sitting in the upper 30s, 38 on Saturday, 36 on Sunday. And a little clock to remind you that it is daylight saving times. Don't forget to reset those clocks. Monday and Tuesday, again, sitting at partly cloudy with a high of 37 on Monday and Tuesday at 40 degrees. And now we're going to move over and talk about the potentially crippling historic snowstorm that will pummel parts of the Rockies and High Plains this weekend. With multiple feet of snow that could snarl travel, damage trees, and knock out parts of power in Colorado, Wyoming, and western Nebraska. The storm has been named Winter Storm Zyla by the Weather Channel, as it will most likely be one of those storms that leave people wishing snow would just cease to exist. Now let me time this out for you. Tonight we aren't going to see too much action. However, late Friday into Saturday, the snow will get heavy and last for several hours throughout the weekend. Total snow accumulation up to 30 inches possible near Boulder and Fort Collins. So if you're going to be in one of those spots where you see pink and purple, definitely Fort Collins, it might be better to avoid driving and going outdoors because it's going to be very icy and cold. Though if you have to go outside, you might want to wear a warm winter coat and snow boots for this one. Stay safe out there, Rams. Stick around after the break for more news, a rundown in sports, and all the exuberance with Tom Isaacson and entertainment.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back from the breaks, Rams.
There's more news, so let's get right into it. We recently got to interview the candidates for the upcoming CSU election. They shared their personalities and plans with us, and we're going to take a look at what the candidates look like this year. Let's take a look at their campaigns through their own words.
We sat down with all of the presidential and vice presidential candidates and asked them to tell us what their campaigns were all about.
Because it's rooted in our foundation of three values: radical inclusion, transparency, and stewardship.
Well, the number one thing we want to do is by throwing a lot of events. Number two is we want to make CSU more green. The number three thing we want to do is continue efforts of the past administrations to overturn U+2.
One of our key things is we feel that students need more representation in student organizations. COVID has taken away a lot of the opportunities students have had to engage with the community.
Is actually installing more water bottle filling stations on campus. We would work with the city of Fort Collins as well as the current administration to discover the tangibility of installing solar on top of campus buildings.
Speaker of the Senate candidates Miles Robinson and Kyle Hill also talked about the focus of their campaigns.
My campaign is based on unity, reunifying, the school essentially after this has been a tough year. I mean, face it.
And our campaign is based on this idea that, there is still hope for this campus and for this world. Throughout this past year, it's been difficult, and that's, even that's an understatement.
Each of the candidates also felt that they had something unique to bring to the race that their opponents simply couldn't.
I think one thing that comes to mind is the fact that Christian and I have close to 5 years of experience. We know how ASCSU works. We know the ins and outs.
My unique perspective of dealing with the administration. I've worked with Joyce and Dr. Hughes, and I've thrown and done a lot of programs.
We want to make sure that ASCSU has representation from all over campus.
We have a passion, a deep, unrivaling passion for CSU that I have not seen in many other individuals here.
Bring table or a unifying structure and a structure that brings, unity regarding.
I think it's experience, not just in terms of being an ASCSU senator, but I think just life experience in general. I'm half black, half white, and I live with a disability. I'm hard of hearing.
The ASCSU election is on March 30th and will be held online like last semester. If you would like to learn more about the candidates and hear the full interviews, they'll be online at CTV 11's YouTube channel.
A Windsor man's entire life was changed after being hospitalized back in January of this year due to COVID-19. In his attempt to fight off the virus, his body fought against itself in a rare condition called HLH. Because of this, he needs a lot of blood transfusions, and his friends and family are to the rescue with a blood drive that is there to help and soon be in order for those transfusions to be possible. This blood drive will be held on Saturday, March 13th from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the UC Health Garth England Blood Center. All blood types are needed, and if you're not terribly afraid of needles like some people, this is your chance to donate. I actually have a nephew who suffers from HLH. His name's Jason, so this is very personal. I really hope people can learn something about this and, help with it.
Yeah, no, really. I'm considering myself going down on March 13th.
Heck yeah.
Well, with that, we have Samantha telling us about the Disability Center here on campus.
Oh, yeah, let's hear about that.
The Disability Center at Colorado State University has found a way to actively engage with students while promoting disability awareness.
CSU's Student Disability Center has released their new podcast to allow students to become more engaged with disability awareness.
Getting students to attend virtually was difficult, and so it's trying to think of ways to get information to students if they wanted to engage with information in a way that was maybe more accessible to them or more easy to engage with. And so I was thinking about how popular podcasts are, and that maybe instead of having an in-person or a virtual dialogue on Zoom, we could just put a podcast out there where some could talk about their experiences or their thoughts. Because it is a new podcast, we haven't been able to see long-term impact on students, but some of the initial response we've been getting from students very positive, that they're feeling like this is a place where they feel like their experiences are being heard It's an opportunity for them to learn more about the disabled community. I think it's another way of trying to normalize disability in society. And so I think students are really feeling positive impacts because of that.
The podcast recently wrapped up their first official episode, which can be found on the Student Disability Center's website.
Anyone, whether they are disabled or not, can take this podcast and learn something about what disability is, what it isn't, what the experience of people with disabilities is like, and how we can create a more inclusive society and culture that normalizes disability and accepts it into society rather than marginalizing it.
The first episode of the podcast can be found at disabilitycenter.colostate.edu. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Samantha, for that. That was awesome. Can't wait to check that out. Imagine that in 70 or 80 years, you were recognized for the work that you're doing right here today. Well, that turned out to be a reality for Theda Esminger, a 105-year-old resident of Fort Collins who is being recognized for the work that she provided all the way back in the 1930s. Theda did a plethora of jobs for the Fort Collins Community Commissioner's Office, such as being a bookkeep for the public welfare as well as the offices and stenography. She did all of this to help provide for her family during the Great Depression, and 70 years later, for all that awesome work, she is getting the recognition that she truly does deserve.
The Poudre School District's middle and high schools will be moving into all in-person classes starting on March 22nd. This is a decision that goes against the CDC's recommendations of keeping schools hybrid until case rates per 100,000 people is 50 or below. The school district, however, is confident about reopening, with over 70% of teachers and staff being vaccinated. In an interview with the Coloradoan, Corey Wilfer, a spokesperson for the Larimer County Health Department, said, quote, "We really think that the best place for kids is in school," end quote. Well, Rams, that's all the news we have for you tonight.
But make sure you don't go anywhere. Madeline Davis is up next with the latest on the Blitz.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 30 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people.
How's it hanging, Ram fans? Welcome back to your Thursday night sports show, The Blitz, Season 2. I'm Madeline Davis, filling in for Brendan Fairbairn tonight while he travels back from unpacking all the action from the Mountain West Women's Basketball Tournament down in Vegas. And speaking of unpacking all the action, that's exactly what we will be doing here tonight. I will be previewing CSU's opening matchup in the conference tourney and then giving you the complete rundown on how the Rockies are looking down in Scottsdale for spring training. With all of this being said, I have a full show for you all, so let's get into it. Earlier in the week, a trio of Rams were named to the Mountain West Coaches All-Conference team for men's basketball, including sophomores David Roddy and Isaiah Stevens, and junior guard Adam Thistlewood. Out of these three staples of Coach Medved's squad, Roddy received the highest accolades with a first-team recognition at forward thanks to his team leading 16.6 points, 9.6 rebounds, and blocks per game. And let's not forget about his second-year running mate, Isaiah Stevens, who earned a spot on the second team, averaging 15 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 5.9 assists, and acting as the distributor for a Rams offense that ranked third in the conference. Last but not least, we have Adam Thistlewood, who received the first postseason recognition of his career with a spot as an honorable mention. All in all, it's critical that this trio plays their best ball to catapult CSU hoops to a March Madness appearance with a successful run in Las Vegas, Nevada for the Mountain West Tournament. CTV sports reporters Ethan Bird and Rachel Hallam are down there right now to tell us about what to expect tonight from these three and the rest of the Rams in their 9:30 p.m. showing against the Fresno State Bulldogs. What should CSU fans be keeping an eye out for, guys?
Thanks, Madeline. Ethan Bird and Rachel Hallam here at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, where CSU has a big night ahead of them, going up against the number 6 seed Fresno State after they just took down New Mexico last night. Ethan, what are we looking forward to here for the Rams?
Well, really, last night the Lobos gave the Rams the recipe to beat Fresno State tonight. You shut down Orlando Robinson and you rain down the threes from the perimeter. You can beat any team, but especially Fresno State, who has a pretty weak perimeter defense, and Orlando Robinson is the heart and soul of the team. You shut him down and you get him frustrated, which David Roddy can do, and Kendall Moore can defend from anywhere. That's how the Rams win tonight.
Absolutely, but you can't miss out on Isaiah Hill and Deion Stroud. All three of these players on the Fresno State are averaging double digits on their points in every game, and for CSU, they just need to capitalize on that offense. Again, obviously, Orlando is a huge a huge hit for the Fresno State and definitely needs to be controlled by the Rams. But you talk about David Roddy and Kendall Moore. You also need to look at the X factors for the Rams here tonight.
Yep.
I mean, Adam Thistlewood has had a rough couple of games lately, and he needs to be picking that back up. Both him and you have Kendall Moore and obviously PJ Bird and Thomas too. They need to look all around, and especially off their bench.
Well, expect Kendall Moore to have a big game because he was snubbed again for any All-Mountain West honors. He tweeted last week that the Mountain West missed him again. Keep an eye out, Kendall Moore. The Rams have the recipe to do it. We'll see how they do tonight. Thanks, Madeline.
Thanks, Ethan and Rachel. Enjoy that warm Vegas weather while you still can. Las Vegas is not the only place with warm weather these days. Down in Scottsdale, Arizona, the Rockies are at spring training preparing for the 2021 season. With opening day only 21 days away, Denver's pro baseball franchise is getting ready for their home opener on April 1st when they host the reigning world champs, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Looking at the squad's main storylines heading into 2021, Colorado is coming off of a difficult 2020, finishing 8 games below 500, as well as a disappointing offseason that saw their star player, third baseman Nolan Arenado, shipped off to the St. Louis Cardinals in exchange for a handful of prospects. With number 28 now gone, there is surely some uncertainty when it comes to who will be filling the massive hole left behind. Some potential names to watch based on their spring results so far are veteran Ryan McMahon, who has been hot at the plate these past 2 days against the Padres in the D-backs, going 2 for 5 with a .400 batting average and 2 home runs. As well as Colton Welker coming in hot from the plate with a .438 hitting percentage, 1 homer, and 8 RBIs. And while he's currently the youngest guy on the Rockies roster at 23, don't be surprised to see him making his major league debut on opening day with how rapidly he's moving up the ranks. Moving on to the defensive side, where Colorado struggled mightily last season, brand new starting pitcher Austin Gomer's recent performance should have Rockies faithful excited. Number 26 was acquired last month in the blockbuster Arenado deal, and this spring has seen him pitch 7 scoreless innings that included 8 strikeouts with only 2 walks. Even with their franchise guy now off in Missouri, this newcomer is proving to be a solid addition to a starting rotation for a Colorado that surely needs some work. Well, Ram fans, that's all the sports I have for you this week, but don't you go anywhere. Tom Isaacson is up next to give you everything you need to know about entertainment.
Dora knows better than anyone. The best place to explore is the forest.
She knows this monkey? Of course she knows this monkey.
Experience nature.
Let's go.
Connect with family.
I love you guys.
And find your own adventure in a forest or park near you.
Let's do this. Come on, Boots.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest or park near you.
Hey there, Rams. My name is Tom Isaacson, and we have a lot of entertainment news to cover tonight, so let's not waste any time and jump right in. And I'm afraid we have to start with some bad news. Many on-campus residents may know about our lovely West Campus dining area, full of some of the best places to eat. Well, we have sadly lost one. That's right, Jimmy John's on Elizabeth Street is closed for good. The restaurant closed originally at the beginning of the pandemic with hopes to return later on. However, sadly, it appears it will not be doing so. A moment of silence then for our fallen sandwich brother. All right, with the somber news out of the way, when one door closes, another must open. And it has, as one of Fort Collins' oldest Italian delights is returning after 17 years. Sciavino, an older Italian wine bar that closed its doors not long after the owner sold it off in 2002, is returning. Antonio Race, great name by the way, has always said that Fort Collins is his second home right after Naples, Italy. The wine bar is set to open on Linden Street and offer authentic Italian experiences and make a statement in the wine bar scene here in Fort Collins. I'm a huge Italian food fan, so this is awesome to hear. Okay, we have talked a lot about talent on this show, showing cool places where artists can show off these talents. But tonight I want to introduce you to a friend of mine who grew up right here in town and is going to big places.
High school band meant something more to Jack Burrell.
So the first project that got me into film scoring was at Hooter High School. So for my personal project, I just randomly decided to write a spoof kind of goofy spy theme. It really inspired me, and it made me realize that that's what I wanted to do.
Growing up, Jack started guitar lessons at a local music store, but quickly got into different instruments and playing them throughout high school, such as bass trombone, euphonium, and more.
So obviously I played in several concerts through my middle school and my high school. And then in high school, I actually was very fortunate to have the opportunity to play in several honor bands and honor orchestras.
And that's not all. Jack has gotten the chance to get his work out there, working with local filmmakers and musicians to make his own film scores for creators.
I only have one official film score, which is a project that some of my friends created. They allowed me to do a partial score of the film. And I think it was really good.
Because of his dedication and skill, Jack has gotten admission to Berklee College of Music in Boston.
From then on, I just started experimenting with, music writing applications such as MuseScore, and just writing more and more. And now I'm at Berklee.
Truly, the future sounds bright for Jack.
Thanks to Jack for taking the time to sit down and chat with me about all the cool stuff he gets to do. It's really awesome seeing all the talent this town produces. One of the biggest losses in this pandemic is not being able to see the people you love. In person, that is. But hopes for normal continue forward. The CDC has officially authorized fully vaccinated senior citizens in assisted living communities to be able to physically interact with and embrace their loved ones. This means those with relatives who are fully vaccinated and living in retirement homes can start to see each other again after nearly a year of complete separation. That to me is so inspiring and fills me with so much hope. Now, I'm a fan of DJs. It's a personal hobby of mine even. And I love doing it digitally, but I get especially excited watching DJs mix on vinyl. Which is why when I went on the internet this week and this resurfaced, I knew I had to show it. I love that so much. Taking a song which sounds nothing like the Imperial March and fusing it with itself to make the Imperial March. How cool is that? It definitely makes me feel a little less talented though. All right, Rams, with all of that, we are out of time. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Have a great rest of your evening and stay safe during the snowstorm.